6 is where I put Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow for me is 6.
Burrow
JD is 5.
Wow, this is the hottest take of the thing.
I gravitated heavily towards the guys that can do it with their legs and their arms. The reason why Hurts isn't
Stafford.
Oh.
No, wait.
So would Joe Burrow be 5?
Oh, sorry. Stafford 7, Herbert 6, Burrow 5. So, spoiler take, Jayden's 4. I just value the guys that can do it with their legs and their arms, man. I would put Hurts a little higher if he was much better with his arm. I think he would be at a higher level. But just like you mentioned, and I'm glad you said it, the floor and the ceiling, man, is just Jayden last year, watched him twice. We'll watch them more than that, but specifically just the only guy that gave the Eagles real legit trouble. I'm talking about, like, you can have everybody guarded, locked up. He's still a threat with his feet. He's still a threat to extend plays. They're putting up points on us and stuff like that. J5 was exceptional as a rookie, like you mentioned, like this. And there is no, like, the play call and the offensive play call is still there. Terry's going to play. I think with him, the floor is super, super high with his ability, his anticipation, his extending plays, his arm talent is really good. Like, I don't think there's a weakness with him either. He doesn't have the upper echelon talent of like a Lamar, who's a guy who he is compared to, but just his floor is so safe, and his ability to be the running back and the quarterback, I value that a little bit more than just solely pocket passers.
I had to cheat on my criteria a little bit because Jayden Daniels actually ended up having one more point than Burrow.
Woo.
And
I'm screaming at that.
The reason why, and then I had to ding a little bit Jayden, so I didn't do that.
Now I got to go back and change this.
Because with Burrow, the 10 out of 10s were pretty clear. It was accuracy, decision making, and
pocket presence.
Pocket presence wasn't a 10 out of 10. It was anticipation. All of those like skillful things, Burrow was a 10 out of 10 for me. The pocket presence was where I dinged him a little bit. He's improved a lot. So I think that is like bumped up to like a 7 or 8. It's more so like an 8. Really, with Jayden Daniels, though, it was, the accuracy is a 10 out of 10. He was the most accurate quarterback in the NFL this past season. The decision making, he didn't make no mistakes. The playmaking is a 10 out of 10 for him. The arm talent with him and Burrow, I think, is similar.
It's close.
Like, yeah. I would definitely have them tied. I don't think Jayden is, has so much better arm than him. They're similar. And then the pocket presence, they're also pretty similar too. So
it's Jayden's playmaking gets a 10 and Burrow's at like a 6 or 7.
Yes, and
probably.
I think the difference in that is really like the playmaking ability that Jayden has. Jayden has the accuracy, he has the decision making, he has the anticipation of Burrow to an extent. Anticipation, he still needs to prove it a little bit more, but it is the playmaking factor with Jayden that I do think if you're a defensive coordinator, Jayden is keeping you up at night more than playing against Burrow. Mm-hmm. And I think Jamar Chase made a point of that with Josh Allen.
Cooked. I don't know why this is bothering me. I want to let you finish.
With Jamar Chase made a point of it where, when you play against Burrow, you're game planning against the receivers because more so, Joe Burrow's going to kill you from the pocket.
Yeah, that's what he does.
And he is a playmaker, and that's why, Joe Burrow to me is not a bad playmaker. He's an exceptional playmaker. I think Jayden and the Lamars and the Allens and the Mahomes are 10 out of 10s, but I think Burrow's like an 8 or 9 out of 10. I think he's that exceptional as a playmaker, but he can't get loose and can't be your rushing offense. And that's where I think the separator is with these other guys where, you're not wrong in where you assess Jayden and how he needs to prove it again, because that is ultimately why I cheated on my criteria and I put Burrow ahead of him because, Burrow has led a team to back-to-back AFC championships. Yep. He's made a Super Bowl, and people ding Burrow for the 2022 or 2021. Was it 2022? It's 2022, right?
The loss against the Chiefs?
2021.
Oh,
they dinged Burrow for the 2021 playoff run because his defense played exceptional.
He carried. Evan McPherson too.
He cooked.
But I did the numbers, and the Commanders' defense averaged just as many turnovers per game as the Bengals' defense in that run.
See, that's the argument I was going to use for Burrow against Jayden this season. Yeah, you can argue Jayden was more clutch. Statistically, that favors. However, comparing defenses, I'm not saying the Commanders were world beaters.
They were better than the Bengals.
It's
Jayden's path was tougher.
It's in the
this past
which
year.
way? Because he has to play. Burrow has to play the Ravens twice.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Burrow go in the playoff run.
No. Oh, yeah. I agree. I'm going off this season.
I disagree.
You think the Bucks, the Lions, and the Eagles.
Well, the Titans were the number 1 seed, comparable to the Lions.
Having to just
Lions
beat
were
the
banged
Chiefs
up.
is more difficult than that run.
He's right. He's right, though.
Wait,
They played the
2025 Eagles?
They didn't beat
No,
them,
he didn't
bro.
beat
Oh,
them.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
He's
Pardon me.
absolutely
I
spitting.
get it.
I know.
I
The
get
first,
it.
I'm
And he
just saying
also
in
came
those
back
first
against
two
the
games.
Chiefs.
I was thinking
They were down.
I was thinking
Yeah.
the year they lost, and that's what I mean.
They were down 21-0, if I'm not mistaken, or 21-7, whatever
like
it
that.
was.
Yeah.
And they came back and won 24-21 in OT.
And they
valid.
beat
That's
the
valid.
Bills on the road in the snow.
No, that's valid. That's valid. I was thinking in the year they lost.
So yeah, that's why I do think
Yeah, I'm thinking about facts.
Because
I think-
the games that that were
Yeah,
similar. They both played the Eagles. The Bengals got smacked. This is when Jalen Hurts played. Jayden had his worst game of the season against the Eagles. They both lost to Pittsburgh. It was a 28-27 loss for the Commanders. The Bengals lost 42-35. And yes, Joe Burrow did have a bad INT that in a way lost them the game.
Mm-hmm.
Burrow was going tit for tat. There was not much more he could do. They lost to the Chargers as well. Another game where they're going tit for tat.
McPherson missed two field goals that game.
And I think there was another game late in the season where
Well, against the Ravens, if McPherson had a chance to win the game and missed the field goal too. So
I was just looking at it, so I don't want to be wrong.
I will say the one knock in Burrow's like near perfect season last year was that in clutch moments he had errors. Like against the Chiefs, the defensive pass interference is what I think lost them the game. But he also fumbled, and Chris Jones recovered it, and the Chiefs scored a touchdown because of that. He also threw an interception late in the Ravens game when they were up by a touchdown, and that led the Ravens to tying up the game. Like there were moments in the clutch where Burrow could have been like, basically we're asking Burrow to be perfect.
Literally
And
11 out of 10.
And that's why I don't think it's fair, because it was basically asking Burrow to be the most perfect he can possibly be. But it was unfortunate that those moments late in the games happened. And I do think that was like, if we're just comparing like the wins and stuff, that's where Jayden's season in the fourth, he was that perfect, for them to win those games. So that's the only thing. But
again, in these losses to Pittsburgh, he threw for 309. In the losses versus the Ravens, he threw for 392. And in the second game, he threw for 428. They lost 35-34.
Get better.
And then you could argue the most must-win game of the season versus the Broncos, he throws for 412 yards.
yeah, against number one ranked defense at the time.
I just want to throw a little bit of respect onto Burrow in that regard.
yeah.
Here's my number 4. Go talk to these guys.
I mean,
man. Go talk to these guys. It's ridiculous.
Well, I have him at number 4.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but you had to go back and fix some of your grading scales there.
Yeah, you should have never said that. You should have kept that to yourself.
No, because
man.
I think attribute for attribute, I mean, Jayden has the
The
attributes.
thing is, Jayden clears when it comes to a playmaker, so Burrow needs to make up 3 to 4 points in other areas, and it's going to be hard.
This is another thing that I would say. In their primes versus last season's rookie Jayden Daniels, would you rather take Drew Brees or Jayden Daniels?
I mean, it's Breeze.
Yeah, I would take Drew
Okay,
Brees.
but Drew Brees is not this playmaker, right?
Well, I would have
I'm
to
taking
take
the- I'm
Burrow
taking the
over
Hall.
Jayden
No,
too.
no,
Yeah.
understand. But I'm saying, no, off traits alone, off what your criteria
yeah.
was, off that criteria, Jayden Daniels is the better player.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not, and I agree with what you did all at the end of the day, taking Burrow over Jayden, but you're not taking Prime Breeze over what Jayden just did. You're not taking Peyton Manning. Would you take Ben Roethlisberger at his best over Jayden Daniels last season?
Probably.
You're taking Big Ben, correct?
Probably Ben at
Okay,
his best.
I'm
It's-
not going to say
close.
Peyton Manning. I'm not going to say Tom Brady for obvious reasons. But again, it's just because you aren't this playmaker.
You can have a better
You
season
can
than
still
somebody,
be
though.
great. And I think that I don't want to. I say all that to say I'm not going to knock Burrow underneath Jayden just because Jayden is the more gifted athlete.
So where do you have Burrow right now?
Burrow is 4 for sure.
What? But who had a better season last year, Burrow or Josh Allen? In your opinion, fuck the MVP, fuck everything else.
Well, it's Josh.
Forget the MVP. In your opinion, who had a? Because you said forget all the playmaking stuff. It shouldn't matter with the legs and stuff. So if it shouldn't matter to you, Burrow should also be higher on your list.
I think when you take into account the lack of help on top of the weapons around Josh Allen, plus he is one of the best passers,
one of the
arguably
best
the best,
offensive lines in
and
football.
on top of it, he is the second best rusher in football. Maybe Jayden surpasses him after this year, who knows? I think you take all that into account. Yes, I think slightly I would lean Josh. And on top of it, he doesn't have Jamar. He doesn't have T. Higgins. But he was tasked with doing so much last season,
So
Joe
was
Burrow.
Jayden, though.
He was.
And he was a rookie. That's
He was
a rookie
amazing.
being tasked with doing all that.
I'm not slighting Jayden in this regard.
And he led a better team offense.
Burrow has a track
Burrow
record
had
that
nothing on
I
defense.
can't.
Oh.
I can't.
He had nothing on defense.
Burrow and Allen it's closer because Burrow and Allen both have multiple years of playing like MVP.
Well, no,
Jayden has this
my
one
point
year.
being is if you're saying forget the playmaking, just like because you talk about Drew Brees and Jayden, you're like forget the playmaking shouldn't be over. If that's the case, the consistency should be across the board.
But the
with Joe
playmaking
Burrow.
can be
No, but it's
different
also
things
different.
too.
Because you think Joe Burrow had the best season last year.
No, you could argue. I think the best season last year was number 8.
Here's the
Okay.
thing. And this is where I think you brought up a good point. The eras are different, and the quarterbacks back then couldn't play make at the level the quarterbacks now can play make. So I think that's number one. But I think the other thing is that they wouldn't be lower in the criteria because Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, those Drew Brees, those players would be 10 out of 10 pocket presences. And Burrow, to me, is not that. He has improved drastically. He went from his first couple seasons to being 8% sack rate to now he's at 6%, which is very good. Like, it is a big upgrade over where he was before, but that'll be the difference. And I think it's the fact that, it's the arm talent with Burrow. Like, I think Peyton Manning had a better arm. I think, Drew Brees probably had a similar arm than Burrow. And the playmaking could be different things. The playmaking, because Burrow's not a bad playmaker. It's not like Jayden is a 10 and I rank Burrow as a 5. Burrow was like an 8 out of 10 playmaker. And he's right up there.
They're all playmakers. I just think when you got guys who can, get you a 10, 15-yard pass and also can break off a run for 15 and 20 yards.
But
it's just I prefer, like, and this is just probably a preference thing, but I look at that and I think that to me right now is more valuable than the sole pocket passers.
Before we keep going on a tangent,
the top 4 is easy. So
who do you think is more talented, Burrow or Jayden Daniels?
I mean, when you're taking playmaking into account, that's just a whole area that Joe Burrow doesn't compare to.
He's limited.
You know what I mean?
And I also want to say this because I've been very consistent on this from Mark as well. That's the most talented football player in the league.
Yes.
Lamar.
Number 8 is the most talented football player in the league. That does not mean that he is better than Mahomes. And again, between him and Josh, it's a coin flip.
Talent is a lot like it's like arm talent. You know what I mean? It's like you could be talented, but quarterback goes so much beyond talent. You know what I mean?
It's
like
deep.
Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jayden Daniels.
Yes.
It's really difficult for me. Like 1 year of Jayden to just throw over Burrow, it's tough for me because we saw Joe Burrow did everything in his power.
Well, you're banking on he's going to continue to do that.
Sure.
That's
and
what
I think that's because with the young guys, I feel like you got to do a little bit of an extension of just, progressing.
And it's not just talent,
because
because if this was just talent, Herbert would be rated higher. I think Jayden's over Herbert.
So let me also say this because we say that number 9 gets the veteran tax talking about Stafford. Are we already saying that last year's Jayden Daniels was better than what Stafford ever was?
No.
I think there's a difference between.
I asked that because you already were willing to put Jayden over Burrow.
Yeah, because I think
And
that.
Burrow last season arguably had a better season than he ever had.
I think there's a difference between having a better statistical season than somebody and not being better than. There's a ton of guys on the list. Baker Mayfield had a better statistical season than Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Fair.
Jared Goff had a better statistical season, probably than a lot of guys in back-to-back years. But that doesn't mean solely I'm gonna say, all right, just because statistically he had a better season, one guy is better.
Burrow is more than stats.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying in general, the situation. If you think about it, it's not like on offense. It's not crazy. Washington's offense isn't this world beater. Of course, they have Scary Terry. The way we view Scary Terry, we're probably looking at that offense like, all right, it's all right, but it's Jayden definitely elevates.
He's carried.
The Bengals have better receivers.
Yeah, and Burrow elevates to a degree
Do the
too.
Bengals have a better running back too?
Jaden's the running back, so no.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, Brian Robinson is kind of Chase Brown's a great receiving back. I don't think it's like a rusher. He's anything special.
I think the areas where Jayden was better situationally was offensive line and play caller. Those are the two areas where I think he had a better situation. Burrow had the better receivers and he had a better back. Even though they weren't an efficient rushing offense, Chase Brown is just more talented than anybody the Commanders had last year. But I do understand your point about it. I wouldn't put Jayden over Burrow because I think it's also it's hard to just give Jayden, and that's why I didn't do it. It's hard to give him top 10s across the board in anticipation, accuracy, and decision making when he's only done it for 1 year.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
for me, like accuracy, I gave him a 10 out of 10, but decision making was like, okay, this is 9. Like the anticipation was, I only seen it for 1 year. I can't already call him a better anticipatory thrower than Joe Burrow.
No,
I think that's fair. And I think that's why it's a hot take, because I think Burrow has given you 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years of steady quarterback, top of the league play. I think the same thing can go for the obvious top guys. It's just, you look at Jayden, you look at what he's done. You look at the type of not leap, I don't want to say, but you look at the type of backpacking he did for the Washington Commanders. You look at what he can do with his legs, what he can do with his arm. You look at how smart he is as a player. You look at the playoffs, like you mentioned. He went into a playoffs and he didn't miss a beat. I think it's, and you mentioned it. You don't think he's going to drop off. So if you don't think he's going to drop off, you got him at 7.
Jayden breaks a lot of what the norms
He
of
does
going
and
into quarterbacking.
And it's a scary
lists
process
take.
because these guys, like CJ did it last year. He broke the norm,
You're right.
had an elite rookie year. So we were like, damn, where do we put him? It's a puzzling thing. And Jayden's doing the same
Were you
thing.
going to put CJ over Joe Burrow last year?
I couldn't, because the way I did it this year, I factored the playmaking a ton into it. And I think, like you mentioned, CJ, he's not a statue, but he's a guy where he's not a all-world beater with his legs.
He doesn't have that playmaking.
Yeah, Jayden is. Jayden is of the Lamars and the Josh Allens.
For sure.
He's like, and we talk about Kyler Murray all the time and how talented he is. But he doesn't have the requisite height, the accuracy, all that stuff like that, the consistent play-by-play. You know what I'm saying? It was amazing. I pulled that shit out that ass.
Yeah, Jayden is a 6'4" Kyler who can throw in the middle.
Literally, like if Kyler was 6'4",
What if
where the
Kyler
fuck
was
would we
great?
have him?